right, I'd like to call this special Board of Education meeting of the West Allis-West Milwaukee School District to order, please. Suzette, could you call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Klug. Here. Mr. Schultz.
Present.
Mr. Bailey.
Present.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Ustruck is excused. Mrs. Justum. Here. Mr. Sikich.
Present.
Mr. Keller.
Here.
President Emmons.
Here. All right, we will go into our action items for this evening. Action item 3.1, the teacher early retirement option for 2018-2019.
Okay, I'll do a little introduction here as Caitlin and Jeff join us. Where we are in preparing the proposal for the board. So we appreciate the board taking the time, to have a conversation and workshop, and then also spending some time this evening in a special board meeting. We can consider action on this as we explain the timeline of a decision matters to eligible employees or employees that become eligible if the board supports this. So as we've worked through this, one of the things I mentioned is that whenever you create kind of a mechanism like this in benefits, you're drawing a line somewhere among groups of employees, right? And so if the board approves this, there are people that are going to be, or figure out that they're now right below the line, and they're going to feel like they're being treated unfairly. It's one of the unavoidable dynamics of creating kind of moments like this, especially in benefit plans. So we may hear from individual employees, and they may even contact you asking for special consideration, or I should be included in this because. But even if we were to change that, there's still going to be a line somewhere else, right? And if there is good reason to change it, we'll come back to the board. Right? So if we do, because this is complicated, and you've seen all the paperwork and all the various retirement groups and plans, and it does get pretty complex fast, as Caitlin and Jeff know better than, Mary Kate will know better than any of us. But I just wanted kind of those things kind of in front of us, because depending on exactly how things get interpreted, and we've even asked for interpretation of language from counsel, so one of the attorneys we work with to look at this language and say, are we interpreting this in a way that is reasonable and proper? And these aren't collective bargaining agreements anymore, so they're not legally binding agreements, but we want to make sure we're treating people fairly and having a consistent way to interpret language. So one other change since the last time we talked, we talked about where we currently have the line drawn would make 23 teachers eligible for the early retirement option if the board approves it. That's now 24. One of the things that we discovered is an employee that was in the database where we've been tracking employees with their retirement had a last name change. So there's a marriage in there somewhere. So it looked like two different people. When you put them together, that person becomes eligible, right? So that's we're paying attention to the details and making sure this is as clean as possible. So that's where we are. I don't know if the two of you want to add anything else. Oh, this additional individual that they would add about $30,000 in additional savings, assuming that individual would exercise the option if the board approves it.
And that particular employee would be in Tier 1.
Tier 1.
In that group. And like Dr. Lexman said, it was a name change, and that was the reason why at least I didn't include them in the first proposal that came forward. As Mary informed us that there's a new name, then that's why they were added at this time. But it would be within that first tier. So that would make that a total of 9 employees in Tier 1.
And just a note, I know we've talked about it numerous times, but this is for our teacher group, so we have other employee groups, at will, administrators, et cetera, and this is just for the teacher group at this time.
Questions, comments?
I know it's been queried if the other groups are going to be considered sometime in the future. Is that something that's being looked at? Obviously not for this next year, but for the future, maybe the year after that?
I think we'll be reviewing this year by year, depending on what our needs are. I mean, one of the dynamics that we're trying to leverage here is, manage the fiscal stability of the district. And usually, when a teacher retires, they're replaced by a younger teacher that comes in at a different point in the salary schedule. That's not always true with administrators in particular, right? So sometimes the market for principals means you end up paying the new person more than the retiring person, right? So it has a different kind of dynamic that we really have to kind of sort through to see if that's of benefit to us.
Okay.
What about additional support staff?
But,
Like, Yeah, like EAs, and we had talked about, you know, as the school year budget gets fine-tuned, that was something that was gonna be looked at in general. So does that, will a separate package be developed for the future for?
So I don't know enough about retirement benefits for EAs, so I think we'd have to do some homework on that.
Mhm.
They seem to be different.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I'll move to approve the early retirement option for 218, 219.
Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any additional comments or questions for Caitlin and Jeff? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work, Jeff and Caitlin.
Okay, then we would look to clear the room to go into executive session. Okay, we already motioned, correct? Seconded to go back into open. So now we just need roll call.
Okay, Mr. Sikkich, roll call back in open session.
Roll call back over.
Mr. Sikkich,
Here.
No, yeah.
Present, yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Ustruck is excused, Mrs. Justum,
Yes.
Ms. Klug,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
and President Emmons.
Yes. We have one action item in open session, which is the amended purchase contract number 8 between the school district of the West Allis-West and Cobalt Partners.
Move to approve the amended purchase contract number 8, which includes the memorandum of understanding attached as an exhibit with modifications as discussed with legal counsel. With respect to the memorandum of understanding, the approval is assuming no changes beyond previous authorization that would affect the school district of West Allis-West Milwaukee et al.
Second.
All right, been moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, we will then move into workshop.